Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the MCDFNL Footy Show. We're back after a bit of an absence, back on your screens again. Part of the reason for the absence, this bloke here, Sammy Gowers, on teaching rounds up in Bendigo, mate. How did it go?
Yeah, just moulding the young minds of the future, mate.
That is a really, really scary thought to think that a bloke like you is looking after the future of our generation. It's scary stuff.
No, did a sterling job, mate. Sterling.
And, of course, the other reason, Scott and I having a week up in Cairns last weekend in Townsville, helping out with the AFL Goldfields under-17 team, which is our first talking point this week because the 4 MCDFNL representatives on the team were absolutely fantastic all week long. Blake Salmon and Lockie McGanty from Avoca, Jake Keogh from Trentham and Riley Bibby from Navarre all played huge parts in all 3 of the wins, the 2 up in Far North Queensland and the game against AFL Barwon last Sunday as well. Jake Keogh, I think, best player in 2 of the 3 games, kicked a couple of goals in each. Riley Bibby kicked goals in both games up north, and Blake Salmon and Lockie McGanty really influential down back in both games as well.
Yeah, good to see some of the leagues, probably lower clubs, have got some younger talent coming through. Keogh from Trentham and the boys from Avoca, so good signs for them for the future.
Riley Bibby not short on confidence either, I can tell you that. Played much, much better in this game against Townsville Mackay than he did against Cairns. Didn't get too many kicks in the game against Cairns, and we told him about it, so he came out and proved us wrong in the second game.
We would be full of confidence being from Navarre, wouldn't you?
He would indeed, the boy from Paradise as well, just going along very, very nicely. Second talking point for this week, and this team's been a talking point for probably the wrong reason so far this year, but they're up and about at the moment. 3 wins in succession sees Talbot in the top 8.
It certainly does. Early on in the season, we sunk the boots into the botters a little bit.
And I've been told on numerous occasions how upsetting that has been for the folk over at Talbot. I got bailed up in JD's one night and got a half-hour lecture about it.
But no, full credit to Sherman and the boys out at the Hawks. They've come good.
Look, they knew that it was going to happen. They had a really tough run early on. Their first 2 games were probably games they could have won, but they let go. But then they had a tough run. All they knew is once they broke the drought, that they'd be able to get those wins on the board. That's exactly what they've done. They get a tough one this week, but next week we're going to have a look at the runs home for all of our finals contenders. And what we'll see with Talbot is if their destiny is very much in their own hands going forward.
Yeah, they've got a pretty good run towards the finals, so they could recover from that slow start and finish in the top 8.
But who will they play if they make the top 8 is the big question, because talking point number 3 is the top 4 done and dusted now that there's kind of that 2-game gap. Natty in 4th and Harcourt in 5th, and then 2 games back to Royal Park in 6th. We know Harcourt in the middle of one of the toughest months of the season. They've still got Lexington, Royal Park, I believe, and also Nevada play this month, which is very, very tough skating. But are Royal Park too far behind to catch Natty? Especially Natty's got a couple of good games that they'd start favourite in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, looking ahead over the draw, Natty does have a pretty good run, and Royal Park's got a little bit of a rougher run. But you get to round 14 and those 2 teams face off in that split round, that turns that into a massive game.
It does indeed. When you consider that Natty still have to play Carisbrook and Navarre on the way home as well, which games that they probably won't start favourites in, given the form lines of those 2 teams as well. The chance is there for Royal Park if they want to take it. They need that round 14 game. They probably need one more upset because they do need to win 2 more games than Natty, which means if Natty get 3 out of their 6, Royal Park need to win 5 of their 6 and probably get a couple of percentage boosters in there.
Yeah, it might come down to that percentage, so both those teams need to make sure those games that they're going to start favourites in, they make them big wins.
Yeah, they will indeed. Let's have a look at the results from last week before we turn our attention to this week as well. And I'll quickly run through the footy, and Sammy will quickly run through the netball. It was in the football, Avoca 15-17-107, their 2nd win for the year, defeating Trentham 14-10-94. Natty Bialabeth 23-11-149, defeating Campbell's Creek 8 goals 12-60. Melbourne Rovers 14-15-99, defeating Denali 4-12-36. Lexington 13-15-93, putting that dint in Royal Park's top 4 hopes 6-10-46. Talbot 14-8-92, back in the top 8 as we mentioned, defeating Newstead 10-8-68. Carisbrook 15-13-103, defeating Harcourt 10-11-71. And Navarre 23-21-159, defeating Malden 2 behinds, 2 points.
And in the netball, Avoca 49, downing Trentham 31. Natty Bialabeth 63 to Campbell's Creek's 22. Denali getting a win over Maryborough Rovers 44-30. Lexington 49, defeating Royal Park 19. Newstead 59, downing Talbot 12. Harcourt 34, getting a win over Carisbrook 24. and Navarre 50 defeating Malden 18.
You can see the ladders for the football up on the screen at the moment. Looks like the top three are pretty well set in stone there. May just be some jostling between Carisbrook and Lexington, but I don't think it'll matter because I think they'll end up facing each other in that second qualifying final anyway. It'll be more than likely Navarre v Natty in the first qualifying final, which could be interesting because Natty have a history of pushing Navarre in finals, but as we said before, still a little bit of water to go under the bridge to get that far. Harcourt in 5th, Royal Park in 6th, Maryborough Rovers in 7th, and then Talbot in 8th, rounding out the top 8. Netball ladder on the screen as well, and once again Navarre absolutely streeting the field at the moment, doing very nicely. Lexington not far behind them as well. You can see how the rest of that ladder pans out. That's going to be an interesting one to have a bit of a deeper look at in the next couple of weeks as well, and just see how that could pan out towards the end of the season. Round 11 this weekend, some huge matches going on, not too many bigger than the game at Jubilee Park this week as well. Maryborough Rovers taking on Avoca. Bit of a new lease of life with Avoca after that win against Trentham last week. They'll go into this game thinking that they can win. The Rovers will want to go into this game looking to get a victory to really cement away that top 8 spot.
Yeah, we've seen Rovers improve massively this year. You know, the last few seasons they've been threatening to do so, but this is the year that they've done it, and I'm going to back them to get over the Dogs in this one.
A lot of confidence with Avoca. A couple of handy blokes coming back in as well. Lockie Morganti will come back in after the trip to Far North Queensland, and Randy Vickers coming back in as well, who I think has played 4 games and been best on ground 4 times for Avoca, so he'll be handy in the ruck coming up against the Hedger boys as well, and could give them a bit of an advantage there. Mick Henningsen in some good form, kicking 5 last week as well. They'll go in confident, but just feel the Rovers playing that little bit better footy consistently at the moment.
Yeah, Rovers have probably just got that touch more class. Guys like Scotty Sellers, Bryce Fletcher, I think that'll get them over the line.
Malden taking on Campbell's Creek this week at the Bill Woodfull Reserve in Malden. Malden coming off a pretty dirty day last week up against Navarre. They're not Robinson Crusoe in that vein though. Plenty have done that this year. They'll come up against the Campbell's Creek side that also got a bit of a pasting last week and will be very keen to get back onto the winners list.
Yeah, like you said, both these teams will be keen to bounce back from those big losses. I'm going to go for Campbell's Creek. Seen both these teams play now, and just a little bit more impressed with the Creekers.
A little bit more consistent as well. Obviously, Malden a bit up and down, and a bit of work to do with some of their numbers as well, which has had a bit of an impact for them at senior level.
Yeah, we know their depth at reserves level isn't great, whereas Campbell's Creeks is a bit better, so I think, yeah, that should get them the win this week.
Can't get to this game, make sure you tune your radio in as well. MCDFNL footy back on the airwaves this week. The Fresh is back in MCDFNL land, 101.5 Fresh FM, broadcasting live from Bill Woodfull Reserve this Saturday afternoon, Malden versus Campbell's Creek. They'll be on board for a couple more home and away games throughout the season, and then we'll hear the Fresh during the finals as well, which we're very, very much looking forward to. Pretty big game at Talbot this week. They take their 3-game winning streak back to their home deck and face a pretty good Carisbrook side this weekend. Tough ask for Talbot, but they're well more prepared for it than they were a few weeks ago, and they'll go in reasonably confident.
They will. They'll certainly have more confidence than they had at the start of the year, but pretty hard to tip against Carisbrook at the moment. They are in red-hot form.
Nath back last 2 weeks, 11 snags as well, so just coming along nicely.
Yeah, Matty Dilton doing a fair bit of damage around goals as well, so it's pretty hard to stop that forward line.
That's why Nath had to come back in, because Bilton passed him in the goal kicking, and he said, we'll have none of that, thank you. Straight away back in 9.
Yeah, putting a bit of effort in, the big boy.
He is indeed, needs to as well. Carisbrook for me in this one. Natty Bialaba taking on Denali. Denali, bit of a gap between their best and worst at times this year. Natty going along very nicely. You've had a good look at him in the last couple of weeks. What are Natty doing right at the moment?
I think they're just moving the ball a little bit better. Team starting to gel together well. Jarrett Bateson's been a massive in for the Swans. Been best on, I think, in the last 4 or 5 games, so he can probably look forward to a little bit of attention from opposition midfields as the run home continues. Yep,
could be a good man to just make sure his Mondays in early September are pretty well free as well, because could feature fairly high in the Berry Power medal counts as well. Big Pilgs up there, kicking sausage rolls as well, doing a good job for Natty.
Yeah, him and Zach Perez stretch most back lines. They're pretty big boys, so hard to match up on. And the Swans for me in this one, of course.
Natty for me as well. Lexington taking on Harcourt. Big game this one. Lexington had a potential top 4 contender last week and gave them a nice old shove along in Royal Park. They've got another one this week in Harcourt, who weren't too bad against Carisbrook last week. It was only 5 goals in the end, and they'll know that they need to get a win like this to really show everybody that start to the season they got got wasn't just an aberration, that they can really challenge this year, and if they can knock off Lexington, people will certainly stand up and pay attention.
Yeah, that'd send massive ripples through the MCDFNL, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think Lexington probably just have a little bit too much midfield class for Harcourt.
Yeah, they're going very nicely, and it'd be bad of us to foreshadow going ahead for Lexington, but they get through this week, and it's one of their matches of the season next week, Navarre v Lexington. So be very interesting to see how this game goes. Lexington should be too strong this week, though. Speaking of Navarre, they're on the road this week, heading out to Newstead and taking on a very young Steaders side. And even though Navarre themselves very, very young in recent weeks, with some key players out of the side, they've just showed how strong they have with depth in that club recently.
Yeah, their depth is incredible, and like you said, that Newstead side is very young. I think they might get out-muscled by the Grasshoppers a little bit here.
Yeah, Hoppers for me as well to be 33 in a row if they win this one as well, which is extremely impressive, and probably one of, if not the longest winning streak in Victorian football at the moment.
Yeah, certainly put them among the top clubs in the state, that's for sure.
Yeah, it certainly does. The last game for the week, and also one of the most interesting, out at Trentham this week. Trentham taking on Royal Park. Trentham have been battered a little bit in the past week. They lost a game to Avoca that they thought they should have won, but they're a much better side at home, as we know, and they take on a Royal Park side that, on a bit of a downer after that loss against Lexington last week, they'll be looking to really recover and know that they need this win to keep in that top four hunt.
Yeah, like you said, Trentham are much better at home, but they have developed a bit of a habit in recent years of just fading out in the last quarter. So they'll want to hang on against Bushy this week if
and
they
that's
can get in
one
front.
of Royal Park's strengths this year as well, really powering home to the line and playing all four quarters.
Yeah, but we know clubs don't like travelling down to Trentham. It's a long drive and it's really, really cold.
It is. Yeah. And it's not supposed to be much warmer on Saturday either. It's supposed to be a stinker of a day.
Yeah, so it should be an interesting game, this one. I'm going to go for Bushy, but only just.
Yeah, Bushy for mine. Hopefully that little nugget, Jakey Keogh, gets a senior game as well, because he is an absolute jet. That's all of us done for this week, mate. Pleasure to have you back in the studio and back on the MCDFNL website for another week.
Wonderful to be back, mate.
And we look forward to doing it again, same time, same place next week. Thanks for joining us on the MCDFNL Footy Show, brought to you, of course, by Bendigo Bank Maryborough, our fantastic league naming rights partners. We'll see you again next week.